Today we're going to be discussing how to start the fire in your wood-fired brick ovens. So first step, you're going to open the cast iron door that is in the front of the oven, and it's going to remain fully open until the fire is fully started. Often the question we get is, how can I start the fire so I don't have any smoke coming out of the front of the oven? Well, the answer is fairly simple. You need to start your fire directly at the front of the oven under the chimney. The smoke is fairly lazy and it's going to go where there is the path of least resistance. If you start your fire and your chimney is not already hot, the smoke is going to come outside. The door of the oven is going to make the front of the oven fairly black after a while. So to prevent that, you actually want to start your fire at the very front of the oven, directly under the chimney stack, which is where my hand is. So your chimney is going to be right up here. So when you start the fire, you start a small fire right here at the front of the oven. You're going to heat up the chimney stack, and the smoke is going to go right up the chimney stack. And as you move your fire towards the center and then towards the back of the oven, you are going to have a really good smoke exhaust without any smoke coming out the front of the oven. So often the question that we get as well is, what type of wood should I use? So when you start your fire, you're going to want to use very small pieces of wood. I have a few small pieces of wood here, which is literally little tree trimmings, leftover split pieces from when we resplit the wood. We're going to use mostly hardwood like maple, ash, oak. Those are going to be great wood as they're going to provide a mix of embers and flame to heat up the oven. If your wood is too hard, let's say you're using apple wood, pear, you're going to get more embers and possibly not enough flame, and you will feel like your oven is not heating up pretty well. And if your wood is too soft, let's say start using some type of pine wood, well, it burns really fast, a lot of flame, a lot of dark smoke, leaves a smell. So those are really not ideal for heating up the oven. So check out the BTU rating online of the wood that you are looking to use, and you will get a good idea of what you can expect out of firing the oven. The higher the BTU, the better. But again, it needs to be a mix of flame and embers, not just flame or not just embers. The other question that we often get is, it's so hard to start the fire. Why am I struggling? Can I use a fire accelerant? So the short answer is no, do not use any type of fire starter, fire accelerant. So no liquid fire starter, no little wax bricks. The problem with those is that, first of all, they have chemicals in it, and those chemicals will end up in the floor of the oven, and that's directly where you will be cooking your pizza or other dishes. So you really don't want any chemicals at all. The other important fact is that as the oven gets hot, any accelerant will evaporate or dissipate faster. You could get a really big flame, possibly completely out of control. So we highly recommend no fire starter, and even if you're going to use any type of cardboard, make sure there is no wax or glue inside the cardboard. Make sure there is no print on it that could actually create a bigger flame than what you intended to get. So how to start the fire? I usually recommend to get about average size piece of wood, and I'm going to put it directly under the chimney, and I'm going to make sure it points from the front to the back of the oven, because your airflow is always going to be coming from the front of the oven and going towards the back of the oven. So you want to make sure there is a nice airway that is created. Next to the wood, I'm going to put a little bit of paper bags. Those are really simple paper bags, no glue, no print on it, no nothing. And I'm going to put right next to the fire, and then I'm going to take my kindling and I'm going to put it, same thing, directly against the paper, but I'm going to crisscross it with the wood. And the idea is that as the air fuels the paper, it's going to go make the flame go up and make this wood catch on fire. And that way I need a lot less wood, and it's going to be a lot faster to start the fire. The other critical aspect of firewood is that it has to be dry and it has to be seasoned. So it's not because you buy a wood from a store that is necessarily ready. Even sometimes wood suppliers will leave the wood sit in the rain, and then when you're going to go to use it, it's not dry enough. It will be harder to have the fire catch on. This wood has been stored inside for months. It's very dry and it will catch very easily. So go ahead and light the paper. And as you can see, the flame is going straight up, heating up the chimney, and it's nicely drafting the smoke up the chimney and out of the oven. So you would want to put the smallest pieces of wood at the very bottom, where it's going to easily be in touch with the flame from the paper. The smaller pieces will catch on fire faster, and then as they catch on fire, they make a bigger flame. They will make the bigger pieces catch on fire. As your fire is nicely burning, I'm going to simply move it a little bit further back. about 12 more inches, and I'm going to add another piece of wood, and we'll give it about 5 minutes to keep catching on and burning nice and hot. So as I keep adding wood, I want to make sure I keep crisscrossing the pieces of wood, so I don't just pile it down. I'm going to try to put it crisscross, and that way I have a nice airflow so the fire can go up and keep burning onto the next piece of wood. So when it comes to firing the oven, the next question that we get quite a bit is how big of a piece of wood should I be putting? So actually you're going to want to put a variety of sizes of wood. So here we have a few pieces. It's probably as small as I would go. It's a piece of wood that was resplit. We're about 2 inches wide by maybe ½ an inch thick. This is ideal when you want a lot of flame. It will quickly burn down to almost nothing in just a few minutes. Next size up. This is about 1.5 inches or so in diameter. This is ideal. It will create a good amount of flame and a good amount of embers as well. This starts to be a little bit on the bigger side. We have about ½ an inch by 2 inches, and here it's much bigger. This is going to be similar to those two pieces. They're going to burn really well, a good amount of flame and embers, which is what we're looking for. When you fire the oven and you have a lot of time, those are going to be big pieces. This is a good 3, almost 4 inches piece of wood that was resplit. This is going to create a lot more embers. And so again, you want a mix of flame of embers. So if you have some pieces like that and you feel like you don't have enough embers, well, put them in. And you can put them with a mix of smaller pieces. So clearly a piece like that will last you 20 to 30 minutes, or a piece like this one, 5 to 10 minutes. A mix of different sizes will be ideal. You don't always control what you have. What is important is to make sure that you keep a good flame going. Flame, it needs to run always at least halfway across the dome. That's how you know that you have a fire that is big enough and that it's heating up within a reasonable amount of time. So here I have my wood, and again, as I said, we keep crisscrossing, so we never stack all the wood on top of each other. Another question on starting the fire in the oven is going to be, can I just make a big pile of wood, set it on fire, walk away, come back 2 hours later? So you can if you want. Really, the idea of our ovens is that it's a low dome design. They are very efficient, and you don't need to make a really big fire just to heat it up. So it's best to do smaller fires, again, with a flame that run halfway across the dome. Come back every 20 to 30 minutes, add a little bit more wood. But the problem with a really big fire is that you're going to not only burn a lot of wood, but waste a lot of energy as well. That big fire will make big flame. Your flame will possibly go up the chimney. Then the heat is just wasted. At no point it will really heat up the oven. So I really don't recommend it. I don't think it's necessary. Here I have a good fire going. I'm going to add this medium-sized piece of wood to it. The easiest way to do that is going to put the wood here. I'm going to grab a peel and put it right into the fire. I'm going to take my peel, put the wood on it so I can easily crisscross it. I'm going to set it. Place that next log on top of the fire and it's going to catch on. We're going to give the fire another 5 minutes and then we'll move it to the center of the oven. So how frequently should I be adding wood when I'm heating up and when I'm cooking in the oven? So again, when you heat up the oven, you want the flame to be running about halfway across the dome. So depending on the size of the pieces of wood, every 10 to 30 minutes, you may need to add a piece of wood. So now when it comes to cooking pizza, you're going to want a fire that runs about halfway across the dome. And by adding smaller pieces of wood, you're going to maintain a good flame. So it's important for a consistent result that you have that flame going, and by putting smaller pieces, you're going to maintain the flame just the way you want it. When it comes to, let's say, roasting a chicken, if you want a small fire, maybe just 2 embers, there will be no problem, but definitely no roaring fire, or you're just going to really scorch the chicken and you will just not get the result you want. When it comes to other dishes, let's say bread, pastries, or cakes, you really don't want any fires, no embers. Your oven should be completely clean, no ashes. If not, your dishes will have a light smoky smell, which really we are not looking for. So now the fire is nicely burning and it's about 12 inches from the door. So I'm going to move it almost all the way to the back of the oven. So for that, I simply take a peel and I very gently try to move the fire back. It's very likely that it may fall apart, then we can just rebuild it at the back of the oven. Okay, so we have moved back the fire to the very back of the oven, and when you heat up the oven, that's where you're going to want the fire to be. This is going to be the most efficient way to heat up your oven. As the fresh air comes in, at the bottom of the door of the oven travels all the way back to the fire, fuels the fire, and then the flame runs all the way across the dome before it exits the chimney. And so that's going to be the most efficient way to heat up the oven. Once your oven has been heated to the desired temperature, so let's say you're cooking pizza, you're going to want to eventually place your fire either to the left side or the right side. This will allow you to see the side of the pizza cooking in the oven. If your fire is at the back and you can only see the front side of the pizza that is exposed to you, you will not be able to see the back side of the pizza that is only exposed to the fire, and then it's more likely that you burn it. So it's why we want to shift the fire either to the left side or to the right side, so you can see the side of the pizza coloring and cooking, so you can turn it before it starts burning.